On deck, DJ TQ. Location, Gaumont Palace, Dominion Center, the Broadway High Road, Woodgreen, N226DS. Performing live, we'll be having a surprise guest. Anticipate, come and witness history in the making. Tickets available online at www.kojoentry.eventbrite.co.uk. Remember, this is sponsored by Unity Link Money Transfer. Media partners. For more info, contact 077 288 76027 or 075 2552 48643. Kojo Entry with Keche and the Davison Band UK live in concert. UK is powered by Davison Band and Desire Enterprise UK. So my guy, you have to there, eh? It's a legendary thing, my lad, me tell ya. Yeah. It's the anthem.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiebasa. It's not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Jones Awuah.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio. Welcome back. The time now is 14 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday, the 6th of June, 2022. We're streaming live on Facebook, so in case you're not able to, or you're stepping out, and you want to join us on Facebook, you can do so, all right? It is GN Radio UK on Facebook, so you can go on there and leave your messages on there. I really, really want to hear from a lot of people today with regards to what we're discussing this morning. Wherever you are, a good morning to you. And welcome on board once again. Another story that we'll be looking at on one of, when we're giving a report as to what's happening across the continent is the Nigerian president, Buhari. Apparently his convoy were attacked in Kashina. So we'll bring you more update on that very, very soon. But I want us to begin the show with this particular story, which I find interesting. Zimbabwe's central bank says it will start issuing gold coins as legal tender in late July as the country battles to control soaring inflation that has considerably weakened the local currency. The gold coin is named Mosi Uwatunya after Victoria Falls and can be converted into cash according to the Apex Bank. The latest measures comes as the country's inflation rate more than doubled last month to 191%, bringing back memories of the hyperinflation of the 2000s that saw the Zimbabwe dollar redominated 3 times. The local currency would later be abandoned in 2009. So the real issues happen there in Zimbabwe. And soon, Marshall Go will be joining us to discuss this particular story. And then later on our show, as I did mention earlier on, the pastor, Creflo Dollar, has come out with a statement. I don't know whether you've seen the video trending on social media, but I will play it, especially in particular those of us, in the Christian faith. He's saying that his previous teachings to do with tithing now should be disregarded. Okay, so we're asking, in light of his statement, would you still pay tithe when you go to church, or you will completely stop paying tithe? That's what we'll be discussing later. And of course, we'll bring you other stories as well. So do stay tuned. Now then, joining us to discuss this particular story to do with Zimbabwe's central bank to converting gold, introducing gold amid the inflation crisis, is Comrade Marshall Gore, ZANU-PF executive. Marshall, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jones, for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So I remember the last time we spoke. I mean, you know, this issue is a global. There is a global when it comes to the issue of inflation, the issue of economies going through some sort of turbulence at the minute. You know, there's been this argument of it being a global issue. And I just want to know, again, just clarify what the Central Bank of Zimbabwe is trying to achieve here, and the process that it would take to be able to for this to work effectively.
Thank you, Johns, for this question. I think it's important to put clarity to all matters. First of all, I would like to say that the issues with the Zimbabwe economy are very historical in nature, dating back to 2000 and 2001, when the US and its allies, the EU and Britain included at that time, imposed unprecedented economic sanctions on Zimbabwe. So since that time, the Zimbabwe economy has been in turbulences. The economy has struggled with balance of payment, getting investment coming in. As you know, we are still on sanctions, US sanctions now, which means a lot of the companies that bank with the US banking systems and even London banking systems cannot invest in Zimbabwe. That means our banks are struggling for recapitalization. As you know, most banks need bigger brothers to capitalize them. Mm-hmm. If you look even in your situation in Ghana, you see that a lot of banks in Ghana have correspondence banking relationships with banks abroad, in Germany, in Europe, here, in the UK, HSBC. Yeah. So now for Zimbabwe, it's different because most of the banks in Zimbabwe don't have the corresponding banking relationships that is required to sustain the economy, which means then there is a liquidity crisis within the banking sector itself. They struggle to lend because they don't have much capital. Now, how does this build up to where we are now? Over the years, the government has tried strenuously to ensure that we leverage our local resources and use other means to finance our projects and to finance capital and to ensure that banks are recapitalized and to make it easy for banks to source foreign money in a way that is legitimate, but that is also easy, factoring in the sanctions. So if you are aware, in 2008 and 2009, from 2007 actually to 2009, with rampant inflation, which was triggered again by virtual collapse of our economy due to the sanctions. Yeah. This is what triggered dollarization in 2009 when we had an inclusive government. Yeah. We've maintained dollarization and a multi-currency regime pretty much since then until to the point where we are, that in 2018, we reintroduced the Zimbabwe dollar. Now, when the Zimbabwe dollar was reintroduced, it forced, obviously, it was working in tandem with the US dollar. Yeah. So when a local currency is competing with a stronger currency on the ground, there's bound to be arbitrage and people trading the two currencies to seek advantage in the market. So that has been the story. And the government has tried frantically to rectify and remedy these problems through the stabilization program, which they introduced in 2018. And now we're working on the National Development Strategy 2, which has been centered again to ensure that there's fiscal stability and also government behaves well in terms of managing its expenditures. But how did we get here now? So the inflation in Zimbabwe started to become an issue, I think 66% in May. And by the end of May, coming into June, mid-June, it was rampant again to 130%. This was exacerbated by the war in Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, it sent a lot of economic shocks. So if an economy now is partly dollarized and partly local, it's affected the most in unprecedented times like this. So the inflation has become rampant. So what the government has done now is to introduce the gold coin. The gold coin has been introduced to ensure that it supports to manage inflation on transaction basis. Like, for example, if you want to buy a house and you, instead of receiving the local currency, which is currently threatened by inflation, you can then ask the person to buy the gold coins, and then he pays you with the gold coins. They don't lose value because they're equated to the price of gold. So that means people can continue to trade in the midst of inflation. So it's a way of curing inflation, which has been used by other countries in the global world. So I'm glad that the Reserve Bank has introduced this, and I'm sure that the economy will respond very well to it, because this coin is unique. It gives you liquidity. It's got credibility aspects within it. It's an asset preserver. It can be used as collateral. It can also be used to transact to the value of what it is. So I actually think it's a very good idea from an economic sense.
Well, I've been following this particular story, and there's been mixed feelings, from what I've gathered. And one particular argument that stuck, that caught my attention, was the fact that, as you've mentioned, during the 2009 crash with the economy, now this policy, many are concerned, are very uncertain about the implications that they might face, because in the 2009 crash, a lot of people, lost their pensions, lost their savings. So how would the government go about building confidence in Zimbabweans to understand that this is something that will actually protect their savings, their livelihoods, as opposed to this uncertainty that they're feeling at the minute?
Yeah, I think what the government needs to do is to communicate well, which they've done. I think they've started doing. I think the Reserve Bank issued a note, a statement, which was written very clearly and legibly. But I think obviously they need to also release information in local lingua through the Ministry of Information and explain to people the advantages of buying these gold coins. So, for example, if I've got Zim dollars in the bank now, so I would rush, which I have myself, and I'm actually making arrangements with my bank to buy the gold coins, because I know that my money will not be affected by inflation. So literally, it's an advantage from an asset point of view, and it's an advantage to an investment point of view. So those that have savings, this is the time for them to use the savings to convert them into the gold coins, and then they preserve the value of them to save themselves from inflation. But I just think that the message needs to go around. There needs to be a lot of education in radio stations, programs, and I think the Ministry of Finance itself also as a team that needs to engage people at grassroots and pretty much hold workshops to explain to people. I actually think this is a good move for the economy, and it's also a good move for citizens to avenge the disaster that happened in 2007, 2008.
Marshall, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Jones, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you. That was Marshall Gore, Comrade Marshall Gore, ZANU-PF executive here in the UK. Right, now coming up, as I did mention, we'll look at other stories trending across the continent of Africa, but also bringing the newspaper headlines here in the UK. And if you've not been listening to what's going on, there's only one person that I think majority of the newspapers will be talking about this morning, and it is still the one and only Mr. Boris Johnson. Yes, the UK Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, the Teflon Johnson, the man that looks as if nothing sticks on him. Nothing sticks. I mean, you get scandals upon scandals. He comes out, and in Boris Johnson's words, well, it's and he gets away with it. He gets away with it. I'm asking today, should Boris Johnson go? Is it time for Boris Johnson to finally be given the boot out of number 10 Downing Street? Yesterday, two cabinet ministers resigned, Sajid Javid and also Rishi Sunak. Sajid Javid, Health Secretary, and also the Chancellor of Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, has also resigned. How will Boris Johnson survive? There's been a lot of discussion going on. especially within the Conservative Party, the 1922 committee, the elections coming next week. People who are against Boris Johnson will try and get on the executive board to try and change the rules to bring another confidence vote forward, as opposed to waiting a year after one has already taken place. So, plenty to talk about with Boris Johnson. Right, so let's turn our attentions to the newspaper headlines here. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, Mr. Johnson. We begin with the Times. Johnson on the brink. The resignation of Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid. I think I said Sajid Javid dominates Britain's papers on Wednesday. Johnson's on the brink. Headlines the Times after ministers walked out in what the paper describes as coordinated move that dealt a potentially fatal blow to the Prime Minister. The paper reports Mr. Johnson's opponents are intending to change the party's leadership rule to push for a second confidence vote before May. 7 in 10 Britons say Mr. Johnson should resign, according to YouGov poll highlighted by the paper. What do you think? Should Boris Johnson go? I think I've said this. I've said this on many occasions. I voted for Boris Johnson as a mayor. I voted for him, and I don't know why. I think it's probably based on his personality, right? Let's face it. The guy is, love him or loathe him, he's just stutters around and just big words, Latin words, and he's a character. Let's give him that. He's a character. And I think for London, he did well for London. But as a Prime Minister, I'm not so sure. Some people have their reservations about him being the mayor of London. But I voted for him as mayor of London. Now, as a Prime Minister, I think the way that he's decided to run his cabinet has been questioned. I think it hasn't been really based on policies, really, but it's just been about his behavior and the type of leadership that he has displayed behind closed doors and in public. And I think this is what has been the downfall of Boris Johnson. Not so much about his policies, but the man himself, the character. The Daily Mail, a newspaper that usually supports Boris Johnson, let's see what they have on their front page. Can even Boris, the greased piglet, wiggle out of this? Even, under normal circumstances, news papers like the Daily Mail will come out with a more fierce supporting, headline for Boris Johnson. But this one just, if you're reading into it, you're not sure whether support for Boris Johnson is in decline, especially from this particular newspaper, or not. Yeah, so the Daily Mail comparing Mr. Johnson to Greased Piglet over his ability to escape seemingly impossible situations. The Daily Mail asked if he will be able to wiggle out of this. The paper described Tuesday as the most dramatic night in Westminster since the toppling of Margaret Thatcher, calling the resignations a coup attempt. The Mail reports that Prime Minister was last night locked in Downing Street, plotting his survival in the fight for his political life. What we've seen happen in the past is, especially when, there was a vote of confidence a few weeks ago, where you would get from Boris is he would come up with some policies to try and restate his position, to claim that he is still the man to lead the country. I'm sure, there will be taxes slashed left, right, center for him to save his job. I've said it. Boris Johnson will not voluntarily leave number 10 Downing Street. They will have to use a forklift to remove Boris Johnson. He will not go out of his own accord unless they force him out. The Daily Telegraph has a picture of Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak. The Daily Telegraph describes Mr. Johnson as hanging by a thread following the walkout by high-profile cabinet ministers and several junior ministers. The Financial Times has a picture of Boris Johnson in the middle, Rishi Sunak on one side, and Sajid Javid on the other side. And apparently, Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson were meant to have a meeting. We're actually meant to have a meeting just to, to posture that they're in this together in resolving the financial crisis, not financial crisis, the cost of living right now in the country that the country is facing, to show unity, to show union, to show resilience. But looks as if that relationship didn't last that long. The Financial Times, the resignation again from Boris Johnson's government come after he admitted he knew of sexual misconduct allegations against MP Chris Pincher before promoting him to Deputy Chief Whip. And so, like I mentioned earlier on, the issue with Boris Johnson is not so much about his policies. And I think it's a shame and it's sad that as a prime minister, you find yourself in this position not because of bad policies, but just pure incompetence based on your behavior and your approach in handling things, and just trying to cover things constantly, cover up after cover up after cover up after cover up. And yesterday I said this on air. One thing you must admire about the English media, or the British media, I should say, is if they smell a bit of blood, they'll keep digging and digging and digging and digging and dig out the truth. And that's what they keep doing. And that's what they will keep doing. But Boris Johnson on the other side is completely runs his leadership differently. He rather try to conceal whatever scandal. He'll come out and lie about it, and then later on come and apologize. So we saw this with the Partygate. We saw this with the Conservative MP caught in sleaze, where the Conservative Party were trying to change the rules so it doesn't affect the MP in question. The Partygate scandal, which led to Boris Johnson being fined by the police. Initially, he said that no parties took place. Then he kept on reiterating that he's been informed and assured that nothing as such took place. And then after that came, I was at the parties, but I didn't stay there for that long. And then finally, yes, it did happen, and I'm sorry. And we've seen the same thing here with the MP, Chris Pincher, who resigned after allegations came out that he has been groping people within the party. And Boris Johnson, and it transpired that that wasn't actually the first time that this incident had occurred. It happened again the first time it happened was, I think, back in 2019. And Boris Johnson was briefed. He knew about this, but he came out and said he didn't know anything about it or anything specifically to the allegations. And then as it turns out, he was. And then number 10 down the streets then changes his tone. And then finally Boris Johnson comes out to apologize. So, it's just messy. How long can you go on defending the indefensible? How long can you keep going? When you know that what you're defending is just pure lies. And I think the likes of Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid just had enough. Sajid, for instance, I remember this because a few months ago, in the midst of the Partygate scandal, he was asked, he was meant to do the media rounds, to defend Boris Johnson, and he didn't turn up. He did not turn up. So I think we all knew how, he felt about this whole thing. Let's look at the Daily Express, another newspaper that usually supports the Prime Minister. Boris fights on, declaring, "I'm now free to cut taxes." There you go. There you go. So again, the newspapers like the Daily Express, the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail, I'm not quite sure. It looks as if they're not sure whether to withdraw their support for Boris or they're just sitting on the fence. But the Daily Express comes out full pelt. You can tell they still support Boris Johnson. They still believe he's the man to lead this country. Boris fights on, declaring, "I'm now free to cut taxes." So I'm not surprised by the Daily Express. Let's look at the Guardian. Prime Minister on the brink after Javid and Sunak quit. The Guardian splashes on picture of Mr. Boris Johnson side by side with his former Chancellor and the Health Secretary. The paper reports that resignation of Mr. Sunak will increase speculation. The ex-Chancellor has not given up on a leadership bid. So I think what tends to happen is the politicians, they read the room, they read what's going on. And if they feel like, this is the last straw, and of course they want to put themselves forward to become the leader of the country, then what they would do is, everything is about timing. And then what they would do is they would just say, look, unfortunately, I cannot carry on with this. And the Metro, go in, gone. PM is still clinging on to power. Boris Johnson is not going anywhere anytime soon, unless he's forced out. The Metro, as it poses the question whether the Prime Minister will now resign, it reports Mr. Javid wrote in his bombshell resignation that the Prime Minister had lost the country's confidence, and it is clear this situation will not change under your leadership. So this is this is interesting. So Mr. Javid wrote in his resignation letter that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson has lost the country's confidence, and it is clear that this situation will not change under his leadership. I mean, look, there's been a lot of people that have been calling for Boris Johnson to go, but what keeps him at post is the fact that his cabinet ministers have always, surrounded, built a shield around him to support him, even if they don't believe in what they've been told to come out to say. But here we are. Finally, this seems to be cracked. The Independent, end game, Boris Johnson on the brink. And The Sun. Again, The Sun newspaper is also another paper that usually supports Mr. Boris Johnson. Last chance. Saloon, Mr. Boris Johnson, with a picture of both Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid on both sides of Boris Johnson. The Mirror, finally. The Mirror splashes with a picture of Mr. Johnson at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday before the resignations were announced. It describes the departures as the end game for Boris. It says Mr. Sunak and Mr. Javid wielded the knife after years of backing the Prime Minister's toxic government. It adds that doomed Premier is now desperately clinging to power. And finally, the Daily Star. The Daily Star depicts Mr. Johnson as a circus ringmaster whose time is drawing to a close following the high-profile resignations. Cabinet ministers desert Pinocchio, writes the paper. So there you have it. Should Boris Johnson stay or go? What do you think? What do you think will happen? You think Boris Johnson will still stay in power? According to polls conducted by YouGov, a lot of people have really, really lost confidence in Mr. Boris Johnson. What do you think? The number to call is 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. We're taking a break. When we come back, we continue with our discussion here on GN Radio UK. We'll be back right after this.
When you thought you seen it all, but no, this is the height of it. London, wake up as the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry with Keche and the Davison Band UK. Live concert in the UK. This is happening live on the 30th of July, 2022. Time 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Hosted by The Force. DJ on deck, DJ TQ. Location, Gaumont Palace, Dominion Center, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green, N226DS. Performing live, we'll be having a surprise guest. Anticipate. Come and witness history in the making. Tickets available online at www.kojoentry.eventbrite.co.uk. Remember, this is sponsored by Unity Link Money Transfer. Media partners. For more info, contact 077-288-76027 or 075-2552-48643. Kojo Entry with Keche and the Davison Band UK. Live in concert. UK is powered by Davison Band and Desire Enterprise UK. So my guy, you have to date there, eh? It's a legendary thing, my lad, me tell ya. Yeah. It's the anthem.
Yo, Ghana for you what English approach my muha. Ya sweaty. Yenya emrenim fo a wen akwatare wo emrenimu a poto kasa mu ye kasa a lawyer fo entimi nuanom mumiyem for immigration ensem nyina enko dan wo mo Fortwell solicitors emrenimu akuku drofo se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa kan wo krata na se wedi edro nso a eyo mo kokokra eba ne nipa asetena mu eni adwuma mu nsem bia omudi mu akotene pa omo wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mu mponi se no consultation fee.
Fortwell solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ. Nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green. Overground, Hornsey Station. Buses, 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday Beyonce Young Milton Keynes.
Fortwell solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiebasa is not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Awuah.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Become a successful entrepreneur with Jackie and her professional team. Become a successful entrepreneur. Anase Base. Wami a team of professional teachers of economics, marketing, ninga omoyebi. So pesa will transform your life from a youth graduate and a school leaver. Nasa pesa wo ye entrepreneur. Mon contacti base. Entrepreneur no che say obia ebia wa wo business. Ebia wo ye che. But pesa wo no in a professional way. To say Oprah Winfrey, Henry, Anaya Papa, Kwame Despite. Base, Betmama, Sa Diano, Abim, one your experts, coaching, and a mentoring. And as all person will start to wow business, base for bet show how Ubesia expand business and as existing customer base. Base provides support in business plans, step-by-step finance applications, and marketing strategies. Base or become a successful entrepreneur also provide entrepreneurship skills through vision and determination. Some more per free consultation for Base
073 99 867 417. I repeat, 073 99 867 417.
And also one more email address info@becomeasuccess.co.uk. Website www.becomeasuccess.co.uk. Mokohwa mubetimi make bookings for an appointment. Base and I said become a successful entrepreneur. Let's turn your vision into a reality.
When you thought you seen it all, but no. This is the height of it. London, wake up as the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry with Keche and the Davison Band, UK. Live concert in the UK. This is happening live on the 30th of July, 2022. Time, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Hosted by The Force. DJ on deck, DJ TQ. Location, Gaumont Palace, Dominion Center, the Broadway High Road, Wood Green. N226DS. Performing live, we'll be having a surprise guest. Anticipate. Come and witness history in the making. Tickets available online at www.kojoentry.eventbrite.co.uk. Remember, this is sponsored by Unity Link Money Transfer. Media partners. For more info, contact 077-288-76027 or 075-2552-48643. Kojo Entry with Keche and the Davison Band UK live in concert. UK is powered by Davison Band and Desire Enterprise UK. So my guy, you have to there, eh? It's a legendary thing, my lad, me tell ya. Yeah. It's the anthem.
I want to start off by saying to you that I'm still growing and that the teachings that I've shared in times past on the subject of tithing were not correct. And today I stand in humility to correct some things that I've taught for years and believed for years, but could never understand it clearly because I had not yet been confronted with the gospel of grace, which has made the difference. I won't apologize because if it wasn't for me going down that route, I would have never ended up where I am right now. But I will say that I have no shame at all at saying to you, throw away every book, every tape, and every video I ever did on the subject of tithing, unless it lines up with this. I've done some corrective teaching in the last 10 years, but not to the degree of what we're getting ready to do now. So why is this important? Because religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. And if it's one subject that the church has used for a long time to keep people in fear and guilt, it is in that subject of tithing. And it has to be corrected, and it's got to be corrected now. I may lose some friends, preachers may not ever invite me no more, but I think I've already been through that, so it doesn't matter. Go with me in our text today.
All right, so that was Creflo Dollar there. He's a televangelist. Said this a few days ago, actually. Well, I saw this clip, a few days ago, right? And he's saying that everything he's taught about in the past to do with tithing should be disregarded. That there are two particular elements that have been used by the church to project fear on Christians. And there he's actually admitted his role in this. So I'm asking today, as a result, because as a result of what he has said, he said a couple of days ago now, would this have any impact on you at all? Would this influence your decision making in regards to you paying tithe or not paying tithe? I want to know. Let's listen to that clip once more, all right? Let's listen to it once more.
I want to start off by saying to you that I'm still growing, and that the teachings that I've shared in times past on the subject of tithing were not correct. And today I stand in humility to correct some things that I've taught for years and believed for years, but could never understand it clearly because I had not yet been confronted with the gospel of grace, which has made the difference. I won't apologize, because if it wasn't for me going down that route, I would have never ended up where I am right now. But I will say that I have no shame at all at saying to you, throw away every book, every tape, and every video I ever did on the subject of tithing, unless it lines up with this. I've done some corrective teaching in the last 10 years, but not to the degree of what we're getting ready to do now. So why is this important? Because religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. And if it's one subject that the church has used for a long time to keep people in fear and guilt, it is in that subject of tithing. And it has to be corrected, and it's got to be corrected now. I may lose some friends, preachers may not ever invite me no more, but I think I've already been through that, so it doesn't matter. Go with me in our text today.
So that was Creflo Dollar there. Sorry, beg your pardon for coming on laughing. Nothing to do with the video that we just played, by the way. Simply because I was speaking to somebody that we're going to talk to about this particular subject. Also, with regards to what's been happening in Ghana lately, what is your confidence like in the current administration? Do you still have faith? Do you still have faith in the NPP government? Let us know. I want to hear your take on 0203 286 0185 or 0203 735 8820. Do call in and you will get through. You know, for the past few days now, the story, or should I say, the news making the headways in Ghana is to do with Ghana's decision to go to the IMF. And I want to hear your take. If, of course, there will be a lot of people, you know, on the political line, their views will be, you know, very much a political stance, right? From a political stance. But I'm also keen to know if you're Ghanaian or non-Ghanaian, actually, and, you know, the way that things are going, if you also believe that it is as a result of the global economic challenges that's had an impact on Ghana to the point where it's driven the country to seeking IMF bailout. Let's find out, okay? Let's find out from you. I spoke to 2 economists the past few days, and, you know, they've given us their thoughts. The one I spoke to yesterday said he actually wrote to the government 4 months ago. There were indicators that were showing that this is where Ghana was heading, but it fell on deaf ears. So let's hear your take on this. In the midst of all this troublesome time for the country, do you still have faith in this government? You think this government is still the right government to take Ghana forward? Or you think otherwise? Let us know. Okay, let us know. You can call in 0203 735 8820 or 0203 286 0185. Do call in. The numbers are activated. And if you want to call on the mobile line, it's 0778 793 9958. These are the numbers that you need. You can also send your text messages. Or alternatively, you can leave your message on Facebook, because we are streaming live on Facebook, right? Already, I've gotten a lot of few text messages coming in. This is to do with Creflo Dollar, but we'll keep a close eye on that, all right? And we'll come to that subject very, very soon. Right, now let's turn our attentions to other stories as well. Before I come to Ghana, because the issue of Ghana and the IMF, if I was asking this question the other day, if Ghana is seeking to go to the IMF or seeking the IMF bailout, does this mean that the cathedral will not come to fruition? Does this mean that the building of the cathedral will not come to fruition? Let's know. Let's find out. Let's find out. Stories. I'm all over the place at the minute because there's a few breaking stories that I'm trying to get to bring to your attention, but we'll park that to the side for a minute, and then once it's up, we will bring it to your attention. Now, let's look at other stories as well, as always. There's a lot happening across the continent. There's a lot happening. Now, let's look at what's happening in Guinea. Authorities in Guinea arrest members of the opposition. Authorities in Conakry have arrested 3 members of an opposition organization, including its national coordinator, Fronike Mangue, also known as Umar Sela. The arrest took place on Tuesday during a press briefing held at the headquarters of the coalition that aims to return to constitutional order. The National Front for Defense of the Constitution, FNDC, has recently threatened to demonstrate against military junta led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya that replaced former President Alpha Condé. Speaking after the arrest, the coalition vowed to continue a fight for democracy. The FNDC is essential of democracy. We have decided to fight for a return to constitutional order, he said. Okay, now let's take a quick listen to this report. This is to do with opposition members demonstrating for Guinea to return to constitutional rule.
Authorities in Conakry have arrested 3 members of an opposition organization, including its leader, Phonik Mang. The arrests took place on Tuesday during a press briefing held at the headquarters of the coalition that aims for a return to constitutional order in the country. The National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, FNDC, has recently threatened to demonstrate against the military junta led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya that replaced former President Alpha Condé. Speaking after the arrests, the coalition vowed to continue to fight for democracy. The FNDC is a sentinel of democracy. We have decided to fight for a return to constitutional order. Now that we see that we are no longer in a rule of law, there is no longer an open door for dialogue. We see that we are in a dictatorship. We are going to fight this fight. And this fight is going to be led by the people of Guinea, and we call for the people to remain in action until Guinea becomes a virtuous democratic country. The FNDC coalition orchestrated months of mobilization against former President Alpha Condé, deposed last September.
That was a report there. So the people of Guinea are fighting to return to constitutional rule, and these are young men, looking to return the country to constitutional rule. Okay, let's bring you other stories as well. Before we move over to, focusing on the issue of Creflo Dollar, the pastor who's now saying that whatever he has preached about in the past in regards to tithing should be completely disregarded. Okay? Claiming that the church uses 2 elements, which is I think is fear, and what else? The church uses fear. More or less, what he's trying to imply is a guilt for people to pay the tithe. I must also add to the fact that Creflo Dollar is known for preaching about prosperity, and he has benefited from the collection of tithe. And then all of a sudden, after how many years, decides to come out and say that, look, everything about tithing is wrong. Where do you stand on this is the question I'm asking today. Where do you stand on this? Are you still, would this impact you in any shape or form, the way in which you pay your tithe, or you still go ahead to pay your tithe? I want to know. I'll give you my views very, very soon. All right. Now, there's a story to do with Nigeria that I just want to bring your attention quickly. An advance convoy of Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari was ambushed and attacked on Tuesday in his home state, Katsina. The attack happened in Dushima, about 152 kilometers from Buhari's hometown of Douara. Buhari's spokesperson, Garba Shehu, said that the convoy included an advanced team of security guards, protocol, and media officers. And I quote him, he said, the attackers opened fire on the convoy from ambush position, but were repelled by military, police, and DSS personnel accompanying the convoy. Shehu said that 2 persons in the convoy were receiving treatment for the minor injuries they suffered, and that all other personnel, staff, and vehicle made it safely to Douara. However, a spokesman in Katsina, said an assistant commissioner of police, Aminu Uma, and another police officer were killed in a terrorist ambush in Dushima the same day. So when I read this story, it gave an impression that Buhari was in a convoy, but this is a team that when before the president actually got there. And ironically, the information minister, Lai Mohammed, did an interview with the BBC, and he was questioned about the security issues in Nigeria. And he went on to say that, the security issue is under control. Which, of course, many people rebutted online. And it led to an security expert actually tweeting about it, which, momentarily I would like to bring to your attention. I also retweeted what he said because I actually found it fascinating. His name is Ivan Coleman on Twitter. On the issue of Nigeria's security, he said Nigeria was the location of more officially claimed ISIS attacks in June 2022 than any other country. 21% of all attacks. 69% of the attacks targeted the Nigerian military, 13% targeted allied militiamen, and 9% deliberately targeted civilians. So, this issue comes as no surprise, really. The only surprise thing is now the president is being the target. So, serious issues there to do with security when it comes to Nigeria. Okay, now let's cross over to Ghana. There's so many issues going on in Ghana, as always, and the main story dominating the media airwaves is that of Ghana going to the IMF. And it's been reported that the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, would speak on IMF decision on the 14th of July. Next week he'll be speaking about it. It would be interesting to see what he had to say. I mean, you would have expected him to come out right about now. And, this is why sometimes we talk about the hypocrisy in in politics. Because I remember vividly during the time of the Mahama administration when they went to IMF. And of course, this dominated the news agenda. And at that particular time, the current government were in opposition. And when it came to the issues of the economy, it was spearheaded by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And I think, if I'm not wrong, I can quote him as saying the government's decision to go to the IMF is misplaced priorities and lack of indiscipline. What did he say? Indiscipline. Financial indiscipline, or is it fiscal indiscipline? One or the other. So it would be good to hear his take as to why the country, we know why the country has decided to go to IMF. We know that. We do know that. But it would be good to hear from him, because then it will be official. All right? To see what he will have to put forward. And then, of course, we read between the lines and see if what he's saying is accurate. But at the end of the day, nobody can be blamed but the government. And this is why I think politics is interesting, because one day when you're in your position, you criticize, but when you're actually in office and the same issues arises, and we see how you tackle it. I've seen that people are complaining or trying to defend the choice to go to the IMF as saying this is completely separate or different to the time of the previous government, and which I think is, to be honest, it's just utter nonsense. Come on. You can fool some of us, but you can't fool us. You can't fool all of us. It's just not a nonsense. It's just not a nonsense. Exactly. And also, to make matters worse, this was just in 2022, in February, where the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, came out and said that Ghana will not be going to the IMF. So, let's not kid ourselves here. Let's not kid ourselves here. My main issue is not the fact that the government is even going to the IMF. My main issue is, if this is the 17th time that Ghana is seeking IMF bailout, then there is a fundamental issue here. There is a fundamental issue here, because we all know, depending on the IMF, will not push or will not help industrialization. It wouldn't. It wouldn't help development in the country. It wouldn't. We all know it wouldn't help. So why does it keep happening? Why does it keep reoccurring? And I can assure you, whoever comes in, if Ghana successfully comes out the IMF program, a few years down the line, Ghana decides to go back to the IMF program, it's going to be another talking point. So until we're able to find a solution, and it's not as if they don't know, they do know. Of course they know. Well, they did tell us that they have the men to deal with the issues of the day. What has happened? What has changed? Do you still have faith in this particular government? The Ghanaian government I'm talking about here. Let's hear your take. There's a lot happening in the political world, globally, actually. First of all, when we came online, we spoke about what's happening here in England, the resignation of the Health Secretary and also Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor. And several junior ministers have also resigned. Is it time for Boris Johnson to go? We're taking a quick break. When we come back, we will talk more. All right? And I'll read a few text messages that have come in. If you want to call in, you can do so. 0203-286-0185. Don't go nowhere. We'll be back right after this.
Yo, Ghana for your English approach my muha. Ya sweady. Yenya emrenim fo a wen akwatare wo emrenimo a poto kasemu ye kase a lawyer for entimi ne no mumiyem for immigration ensem nyina enko dan wo mo Fortwell solicitors emrenimu akuku draw for se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa kan wo krata na se wedi edro nso a eyo mo kokokra eba ne nipa sitenemu eni adwuma mu nsem bia omudimu akotene pa omo wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mu mponi se no consultation fee.
Fortwell solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ. Nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green. Overground, Hornsey Station. Buses, 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
Opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday Beyonce Young Milton Keynes.
Fortwell Solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Awuah, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiya Basa. It's not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Awuah.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Yo, Ghana for your English approach my muha. Ya sweady. yenya emranimfo a wen akwadare wo emranimu a poto kasa mu ye kasa a lawyer for entimi nuanom mumyemfo ye immigration ensem nyina enko dan wo mo Fortwell solicitors emranimu akukudrofo se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa ka won krata na se wedi edro nso a eyo mokokokra eba ne nipa sitena mu eni adwuma mu nsem bia omudi mu akotene pa omo wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mu mponi se no consultation fee.
Fortwell Solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell Solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell Solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ. Nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green. Overground, Hornsey Station. Buses 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
Opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday Beyonce Young Milton Keynes.
Fortwell Solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
Become a successful entrepreneur with Jackie and her professional team. Become a successful entrepreneur. Anase Base. Wami a team of professional teachers of economics, marketing, ninga omoyebi. So pesa will transform your life from a youth graduate and a school leaver. Nasa pesa wo ye entrepreneur. Mon contacti Base. Entrepreneur no che say obia ebia wa wo business. Ebia wo ye che. But wo pesa wo ye no in a professional way. To say Oprah Winfrey. Anaya papa Kwame Despite. Base betmama sa diano abim. One your experts ewo coaching and a mentoring. And as person will start wa business base for better how ubesia expand your business and as existing customer base. Base provides support in business plans, step-by-step finance applications and marketing strategies. Base or become a successful entrepreneur also provide entrepreneurship skills through vision and determination. Some more free consultation for Base ewo
073 99 867 417. I repeat 073 99 867 417.
And also one more email address info@becomeasuccess.co.uk. Website www.becomeasuccess.co.uk. Mokohwa mobetimi make bookings for an appointment. Base and I said become a successful entrepreneur. Let's turn your vision into a reality.
Welcome back. The time now is exactly 20 minutes past 9. It is Wednesday, 6th July 2022. Crikey, there's a lot going on. We've covered a lot this morning and we've still got a few more stories to cover. Just to remind you, we are streaming live on Facebook. So if you want to get in touch, you can do so on our Facebook channel, or you can call in on 0203 735 8820 or 0203 286 0185. Alternatively, you can call the mobile line on 0778 793 9958. 0778 793 9958. Gosh, the way I keep repeating the numbers, I'm beginning to sound like a salesman. Anyway, coming on the phone right now to talk about, well, first and foremost, I think it would be good to talk to begin with the recent resignation here in England, and then we'll proceed with other stories with Priscilla. Priscilla, thank you very much for joining us. Priscilla is a broadcaster and also a political analyst. Good morning to you, Priscilla.
Good morning, Jones. Always a pleasure.
Are you there,
Hello,
Priscilla?
Jones, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear us? Yeah.
Oh, yes, I can.
Good stuff.
I was saying good morning.
Good morning.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Always a
Priscilla.
pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and there's something happening.
There's something happening, did you say?
Something happening.
Is it just one thing that's happening?
Yes, at least.
Okay.
And I think we have discussions about Boris Johnson and this particular government, and every time there's been scandals after scandals, his cabinet ministers have always rallied around him to protect him, to shield him. But this time there seems to be there seems to be a crack in the walls, and the likes of Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak decided to hang their boots, as it were. It's telling, but Boris Johnson still looks like he's not going anywhere. He's there. He's remaining as the leader, and nothing's going to stop him, Priscilla.
Listen, Jones, I don't know. This soap opera is just simply, it's never ending. The Boris Johnson soap opera is just on a daily basis. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if it was written by, Shonda Rhimes, because at every, you turn the next page and it's so intriguing what's about to happen next. Yes, his chancellor and his health minister both resigned yesterday.
Yeah.
Personally, I think their resignation, I don't think it's because they have such high moral standards or because they care much. I think it's just for them. It's just their bid for the leadership position, because they feel that time has run out for Boris.
Yeah.
And of course, at the natural flow of things, by what has happened to date, it has become just too much.
Mm-hmm.
The line has become too much. The parties have become too much. It's all become too much. But at the same time, the confusion just makes me to wonder and to question. We're in such an interesting season at the moment, an interesting time. It's such an interesting time to be alive. I don't think I've ever seen a government that has been on this roller coaster of defeat for so long, but yet still hangs on to power. I mean, it was bad enough with the whole Brexit situation, and Theresa May struggled and struggled, and her biggest, the biggest thorn in her flesh was Boris Johnson. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. He taunted her until she eventually had to go. And it's the same thing that's happening to him. It's getting to the point where it's becoming virtually impossible for him to hang on. But somehow he continues to hang on. I have begun to question, is there some divine intervention going on here? Because by virtue of what we see in the physical, really, I mean, it's enough. We really don't need a prime minister that can't be trusted, a prime minister that seems to be going against the grain on absolutely everything. It's quite shocking that he's been able to hang on to this end, and today is going to be an interesting day. Everybody seems to be resigning, but he seems to be hanging tight. It's going to be interesting to see what happens by PMQ, not to mention by this evening. So we keep watching.
I was saying earlier, Priscilla, and just like you, I can't recall, what prime minister that has ended up in this position just based on their behavior and the way in which they run in their cabinet. Not necessarily about his policies, but the the behavior,
his behavior.
The narrative of, if there's scandals, you try to conceal it, lie, and then finally come out and then apologize. And this is what is sad about Boris Johnson, how he's managed to find himself in this position, not because of his policies, but it's just down to him as a person. Well, if there's anything to go by.
To be honest, I mean, he should never have been in this position in the first instance. It's not as though we don't know the man. He's never been one of wonderful character, exemplary character, that you could say, oh yes, he's a man of exemplary character. No. Whatever he is displaying today, we have always seen it throughout his political life. It was because he lied as a journalist that the Telegraph, I think, sacked him the first time, because he made up a story about what was going on in Europe. It's not as though we didn't lie, but as I've said before, white men fail up. As much of when you look at his track record and all the lies he has told, how is it that he continues to fail up, continues to be promoted to the next, cushy job, continues to be promoted to the next high-profile position, and yet he's failing? In every position he has held before, there is some he's being trailed by some scandal. Whether it's in his personal life, whether it's in the office that he holds, it's not as though we didn't know. So that is why I, for one, I can't jump. I'm not jumping joining the bandwagon of he must go. Hell no, because I didn't vote for him in the first place, and I wouldn't have considered voting for him in the first instance, because all of this is not really a surprise. This is how he is. So I don't understand how others got to believe in him and thought that he was a good idea. I really don't. So for a country, it makes no sense. It didn't make sense to me. When we voted in Boris Johnson, I thought, wow, what did I miss? But clearly I didn't miss anything, because he has continued to be himself.
Yeah.
So if he it's a great soap opera. Sadly, we're all affected. Sadly, whether it's funny, it's not funny, whatever happens today doesn't happen today. We've all been impacted from the moment, he took the helm of affairs as Prime Minister. We've all been impacted by his nature of, pretending to be bumbling around. However, they're making, redesigning policies that are taking away our rights, redesigning policies that are, practically holding us bound as prisoners, redesigning policies that are making things so expensive and ridiculous, making life so difficult. So we might be looking at him on one hand and thinking, oh, he's a bumbling buffoon, but actually he isn't. That's just his show. That's just his persona. But I go back to what I said earlier. How did we get here? He had no right in the first instance to occupy this position. If we're going to be speaking about standards, if we're now going to be crying about standards in office, then what were we doing voting in the first place?
The issue with standards, Priscilla, and of course this goes back to the time of Donald Trump. And at the time of Donald Trump's tenure, I think, lying or twisting the facts, to suit a certain narrative was well received. And of course, we had the same thing here with Brexit, the lies that were told, and initially, Brexit happened. We're still seeing, the aftermath of Donald Trump. We've seen it here in the UK as well. Supposedly, Boris Johnson decides to go. Do you think that we've come to the end of, the era of not telling the truth, making things up, sending people out there to defend the indefensible, or, the damage will be long-lasting?
The damage will certainly be long lasting. I'm not sure that I can say that we've come to the end of that, because we knew exactly what Boris Johnson was like, but people still voted for him. So I'm not sure that we're there yet in Britain to ask ourselves and answer the question, what were we thinking? It's not as, like I said, it's not as though we were not aware. His rap sheet is so long, whether it's when he was mayor, whether it's when he was whatever office he's held, foreign minister. There was never a time that he didn't put his foot in it, that he did not, cost us. I mean, look at the journalist that was held in Iran, for instance. Because of the utterance of our foreign minister. It's just Nazanin Zakari. Is it? Or the rap sheet is never ending. Yeah. The cost of that to her and her family, we can't. I just don't know whether it's when he was at the Spectator as editor. Whatever he wrote, what he said. I mean, there are women who have complained about the sexual abuse and so on. It's not today. So I honestly don't understand. I don't think we're there yet in that era where we can truly say, oh, it's coming to an end. No, there seems to be a lot more like him.
And finally on this, Priscilla, you made mention of Sajid Javid, the former health secretary, and also the ex-chancellor, now Rishi Sunak. For them resigning doesn't really put them in a position of trust anyway. They're just trying to position themselves for the leadership contest. I mean, we've seen, I think Sajid Javid in the past did have a go, didn't he? But he was unsuccessful. But, with these two particular candidates being affiliated with Johnson, how well do you think this will go down?
You know what I found interesting yesterday when I heard about their resignations? I was in the car driving, I was listening to the radio. And instantly as I heard, I laughed and I said, no, these ones are just resigning, positioning themselves. They're not doing it out of some kind of, moral, some huge moral standing. No. And what I found interesting was that the commentators on the radio also were saying the same thing. Yeah. And I thought, oh my goodness. So we're all seeing through this. So they can resign all they like. We've been wanting Rushi to go for a while now. So his resignation it's actually welcomed, as it were. As for Sajid, good luck to him. But I think these guys forget, this is the United Kingdom. Our racism is deep. So they can try as much as they want to become, the first BAME prime minister, all they want. If we struggled to allow a Scottish man to be prime minister, I really don't know how we're just going to hand over the platter to someone within the BAME community. It's our racism is deep. It is deep. It's rife. It's not. We're okay. We can take you to an extent. But I think there's a point where it stops. And for these two guys and for, Priti Patel herself and everybody else that's coming from the BAME community, yes, we know that we have a mayor that is of, that's not white, but our racism is deep. I can't see a PM position going to either of them. And I don't think either of them have accrued sufficient trust over their time as ministers. I don't think they've been able to build enough support because people can see through them, especially Sunak, and Saj as well, as he likes to be called. People can see through them, and nobody's bowled over just like that.
All right, let me bring in Mr. Yosin into this discussion. Mr. Yosin, I just want to hear your take on this particular story to do with Boris Johnson, because I know you followed the politics, the British politics, with a close eye, Mr. Yosin. For some reason, I don't think we can hear you, Mr. Yosin. Just bear with me. We'll try and see if we can get you on now. Because how about now, Mr. Yosin?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. We still can't hear Mr. Yosin. I don't know why. That is...
Oh, can't you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I also cannot follow the conversation. So what is the question, please?
Can you hear me now, Mr. Yosin? Is this better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. I just wanted to hear your take on what's happening with the likes of Sajid Javid resigning and also Rishi Sunak. Where does this leave Boris Johnson? Is it time for him to go?
The position is that Mr. Johnson has given a cause for concern now that it is showing his bad leadership qualities, which I am not happy with. And it seems the nation, most people are also not happy with. For a situation where your chancellor or minister of finance, he's got to resign, and the minister for health secretary has to resign. It means there's something seriously wrong with the top leadership. And so much as I appreciate Mr. Johnson's efforts, it seems he is gradually failing not only his party, but the nation, unfortunately. He's been a good leader, but we've seen his weak side, which is very dangerous for any successful country.
All right, Mr. Yosin, still hold on because I will come back to you. I just want to bring Priscilla back in. And Priscilla, I saw on the news today, there's been reports that the president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari's convoy came under attack where, unfortunately, two members of the convoy, I think two policemen actually were reported to have been shot. And ironically, the BBC did an interview with the information minister, Lai Mohammed, and the issue about, the security issues came up, the question came up, and according to Lai Mohammed, that, the security issues in Nigeria is not as bad as it's been depicted, as that the government is actually on top of it and dealing with it. And, unfortunately, this incident happens.
The irony of it is just, I'm lost for words, that there was the Minister for Information making those claims that he's been making throughout the 7 years of this administration. And then all of a sudden, the number one citizen of the country is the one that it was said to be under attack. And what is so interesting about this attack is that it happened in his home state. Yeah. It happened when he literally was in his home state, and his convoy was attacked. Now, there are Nigerians that will be rejoicing, happy about it because they have been suffering and experiencing this, and they were being made to feel as though it was they were making up stories, or why could they not quietly enjoy these attacks and say, because nothing is being done. As one former senator put it, when it comes to Boko Haram criminals, they use deodorants. When it comes to IPOP, they use insecticides. They will use heavier, they will handle them heavily. So it's interesting that they say that the situation is not as bad as is being claimed, but yet the number one citizen of the country is now that is under attack, and two of his men are now in hospital. I'm not sure that this is going to suddenly ignite action to be able to address and deal with the issue. They would probably just carry on business as normal, but it's very interesting to see.
Okay, well, we'll keep a close eye on that. We'll see what happens, but it was interesting because social media, especially Twitter, was an interesting place to be yesterday. Then as soon as Lai Mohammed made those comments and it came out, already tweets were just going to the point where a security analyst actually projected what is happening in Nigeria, and it didn't look that good. All right, Priscilla, I just want us to move on to look at our next story. This is to do with church, for the people that, for us, I should say, that claim to be Christians, the issue of tithing. I remember one particular church I went to, Priscilla, and it got to tithing, and nobody got up. Now, this was in my church. It was a church I visited. Okay, and nobody got up. And then what came after that was actually something that stuck with me. You know, the messages that came after that. And I think it kind of compels you to go out there and give. A few days ago,
you know, we're again, this is another issue where we are in a very interesting time about tithing.
Yeah, Priscilla, just hold on for a minute, just for the benefit of our listeners. I just want to play this clip that we've been privy to playing, to hearing. Some people haven't. So for the benefit of our listeners, just listen to this, okay? This is Creflo Dollar, a well-known televangelist. Myself, you know, I used to listen to him. Every now and again, if I come across his stuff on YouTube, I'll click because I like his style of teaching. And his teaching has been centered around prosperity, the prosperity of the gospel. I mean, why not? Why believe in something if you're going to remain poor, right? It is logical, right? Well, let's hear this, and then when we come back, we continue with our discussion.
I want to start off by saying to you that I'm still growing, and that the teachings that I've shared in times past on the subject of tithing were not correct. And today I stand in humility to correct some things that I've taught for years and believed for years, but could never understand it clearly because I had not yet been confronted with the gospel of grace, which has made the difference. I won't apologize, because if it wasn't for me going down that route, I would have never ended up where I am right now. But I will say that I have no shame at all at saying to you, throw away every book, every tape, and every video I ever did on the subject of tithing, unless it lines up with this. I've done some corrective teaching in the last 10 years, but not to the degree of what we're getting ready to do now. So why is this important? Because religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. And if it's one subject that the church has used for a long time to keep people in fear and guilt, it is in that subject of tithing. And it has to be corrected, and it's got to be corrected now. I may lose some friends, preachers may not ever invite me no more, but I think I've already been through that, so it doesn't matter. I want to start off by saying to you that I'm still growing, and that the teachings that I've shared in times past on the subject of tithing were not correct. And today I stand in humility to correct some things that I've taught for years and believed for years, but could never understand it clearly because I had not yet been confronted with the gospel of grace, which has made the difference. I won't apologize, because if it wasn't for me going down that route, I would have never ended up where I am right now. But I will say that I have no shame at all at saying to you, throw away every book, every tape, and every video I ever did on the subject of tithing, unless it lines up with this. I've done some corrective teaching in the last 10 years, but not to the degree of what we're getting ready to do now. So why is this important? Because religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. And if it's one subject that the church has used for a long time to keep people in fear and guilt, it is in that subject of tithing. And it has to be corrected, and it's got to be corrected now. I may lose some friends, preachers may not ever invite me no more, but I think I've already been through that, so it doesn't matter. Go with me in our text today.
All right, so that was Creflo Dollar. He is an American pastor, and he's the founder of non-denominational Christian World Changers Church International, based in College Park, Georgia. And as I did mention before we went on the break, I have in the past listened to him, and I'll still, I come across some of his teachings. I will click on it, on YouTube, because I like his style of teaching, right? I like his style of teaching. So I'm asking, where do you stand on this? Would this impact you in any shape or form? Would you carry on paying your tithe, or you're just gonna, maybe call it quits? Because according to Creflo Dollar, there are two factors that sustain the church, which is fear and guilt. And joining us to discuss this, of course, we still have Priscilla on the line. Priscilla is a broadcaster and also a political analyst. I hope she wouldn't mind me saying that she is a Christian as well. We've had conversations. Joining us is Pastor Fernand Senor Lawson. He's a multiple award-winning author and also a public speaker. And before I come to you, Priscilla, Minister Fernand, let me get your take on this. Will you be encouraging people to continue to pay their tithe, or to stop paying their tithe?
Thank you very much for this honor. Just a quick point of correction. I am not ordained yet, so I wouldn't call myself a pastor. But of course, being a minister of the gospel, I will still settle down with the minister, Ferdinand Lawson. Yeah. Now, straightforward. Regarding the tithe and offering, whether we will encourage people to pay, I think that is a personal view that individual will decide as to whether to continue to pay or not. Now, the reason why I say this is that every day and day out, God is always revealing himself to us, depending on our desire to meet him, our desire to have that intimacy with him. So once we have that relationship with God, he reveals himself daily for us to be able to see him, understand his view, and then get to know him better on a different level as we go along before we get to heaven. So yes, it's to whether we have to encourage members to pay or not. We have to understand the purpose of the tithe and offering, and then how it started, where is it now, and where it's going to go to. So maybe as time goes on, we'll be able to unveil as to whether, personally, I stopped paying tithe for a long time. Not because someone asked me not to pay, or no one asked me not to pay. I have come to that realization that paying the tithe, in Bible, when you read the Malachi, it says that bring in the tithe into the storehouse, so that there will be meat in my house. And the purpose of the tithe is to provide for the Levite at the time, and also to provide for the temple and make sure the poor within the body of Christ, or the godchildren, the poor, unfortunate ones, are provided for. But when we look at the tithe now in this Pentecostal age that we find ourselves, it's only the pastor or the whoever is leading the church and the family are the only beneficiary of the tithe. Forgetting about the offering. So let's say if we pay the tithe and then I needed a supermarket and I cannot go to the storehouse, then it means that the purpose of the storehouse is invalid. That's the reason why I personally have stopped paying the tithe. I'd rather use that money to pay my offering and then do the benevolent thing that I do and helping the poor in Ghana and across the globe.
What about the notion that there are two factors that have sustained the church, the fear and guilt? Do you think that statement is accurate?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, it's a profound statement. See, I mean, I don't know better than Creflo Dollar, and he's been in ministry for a long time. Like I said, God is always revealing himself to us based on our desire to know him. So God might have given him that revelation. That is why he's confessing now. You see, so the church now is being ruled or being determined by fear and guilt. Why? They put fear in you that if you don't pay your tithe, then you will not get, you will not be prosperous, you will not be blessed. And however, they say, well, the people who don't have the money will have to go and borrow and pay the tithe. That making them guilty of what they don't want, they don't have. So if you look at it, it's like a coin has a two-sided, right? So the fear on one side and the guilt at the other side. Now, this is the point that you don't have the money, but you are forcing yourself, if I don't pay, my pastor will come after me. If I don't pay, God will not open the window of heaven. So then you are afraid. And even now, many people, I can guarantee, many Africans can even go and steal from their company just to prove to God that they are paying their tithe. And then they are praying that God to bless them. I believe that is one of the reasons why I agree with Bishop Creflo Dollar, that a statement is profound and true. Because many churches, young people, even especially graduates who have finished university, who are not even working, because they want to be blessed or they want to associate themselves to that Abrahamic blessing, they want to give tithe. But the question is, what are you giving the tithe for? Where are you getting the tithe for? The Bible says that the people were giving from their flesh and food and animal. They were giving the thing that they have sown, cultivated. Are we now, is the church receiving the fruit? Can they receive the apple? Can they receive the mango? If not, then I believe that they are already receiving the money, which they always interested in anyway. But then they are going to use the fear to capitalize on your mind for you to give and then give and enrich them while you are impoverished and not even have to provide for your family members.
All right, let's bring in Priscilla. Priscilla, I did mention that you are a Christian, and it's interesting. We've heard from Minister Ferdinand. Although he says he's not ordained yet, but he really sounds like somebody that knows what he's talking about. So, as a congregant yourself, Priscilla.
Thank you, Minister Ferdinand. It's good to see you. It's been a minute. Yes, indeed, Jones, you're absolutely right. I am a Christian, and this matter of tithing has been one that we've been having this argument for a while now as to whether or not it's right to pay tithe in the church. When Creflo Dollar was speaking, I was asking myself the question, is it the issue of paying tithe that he's apologizing for, or is it the issue of manipulation? Because he has used, as he said in his own word, that, fear is one of the weapons that has been used in church. And so a lot of preachers have been preaching tithe as a weapon, not necessarily according to the scriptures. So it's two things, because if you're obviously preaching it as a weapon, then it's a problem. It's an issue. You're going contrary to the word of the Lord. But if you're preaching it as per scripture, then of course it's fine. You're not going to struggle to have people pay tithe. But I think that we've had this struggle within the ministry because tithing money has been weaponized.
Yeah.
It's been weaponized over the years, either to sustain lifestyles, to sustain, the mega churches, whatever you want to call it. And as Minister Ferdinand said, you're paying tithe into the church, but then you can't go to the church for help when you need it. I've seen that happen to people, where they've been paying tithe and contributing to the church, and they need help, whether they're having issues with their mortgage or they're having issues, and their church has not been able to stand with them. But these are givers to the church, and they've had to look outside. So in that regard, there is an issue, because tithe or not, as Christians, we should be able to have a support base for our members to help them when they get into those kind of troubles. Whether it's to, say, okay, we can give you this amount and then can you pay us back in this way? But you find that a lot of these churches collect so much money. And the reason why they're not able to stand is because they don't have the financial base. How the money is spent is not necessarily clarified for the members to see, and it's not there. So then when people are in trouble, they don't have anything in the coffers to be able to go to support people. So there are a lot of issues because, as usual, what God says and what God intends is one thing, and what man says and what man intends on the basis of the word of God is completely different. So Creflo's statement, I sat down, I listened to him, and like I said, I thought, is this a matter of tithing being wrong, or is this a matter of your way of preaching tithing being wrong and how you've weaponized it? Let's clarify what your apology is about. Saying people should throw away all your messages, I'm not sure about that. But I, for one, think that we should pay more. We should be paying our tithe, because the reason why I say that is that the present day church, for instance, if we're not contributing, whether in tithe or in offering, how then do we pay the bills of the church? How then do we pay for the internet to connect online for people to join us? So how then do we promote the gospel? How are we going to do this? Yes, there are people give into the church at various times, but the occasional giving is not sufficient to sustain the work. If you're going to have a minister in full-time ministry, then how do we support them? What I object to in the churches, there are ministers that will tell you that they're full-time ministry and so on and so forth, but their work is only on a Sunday or a Friday and a Sunday. Yes. Whereas there are ministers, for instance, that are saying, yeah, we're in full-time ministry, and as a church member, you're exhausted because they have something for your career. They have something to address your depression. They have something, prayer and fasting is going on in this corner here. Something is happening over there. They're printing material for church members. They're doing this, they're doing a place like that. You can see how they're using the money. But unfortunately, they are few and far between. The many churches that we have scattered all over the place. So this is an issue that we and I think it also means that as members, as congregants, we need to take time to go and find out from God what we should be doing concerning this issue, so that we walk according to what he's telling us and not according to what man is saying.
I want to throw this question to the both of you, and probably Minister Ferdinand, you first. When you speak to non-believers, what you tend to hear is, the Bible is used to manipulate and project fear into people, to get them to do what they wanted to do. The argument boils down to when, during colonization, when the colonial masters came over, and this is what they brought. That debate, I don't want to get into it, but listening to what Creflo Dollar has said, more or less hinting that there must be an element of truth in what non-believers are saying, to suggest that, the church has used fear and guilt to sustain the church.
I think if I understand your question correctly, I think the answer I will give is that it's easier to judge somebody outside without being in the church. Now, we, like my honorable sister said, it is very easier for us to see what the church is using the money or whatever activity being done in the church, as long as people are benefiting from it. But when you stand outside the building, you can always look at how beautiful the building is. But as to what is happening within the building, it's not known to you. So if an unbeliever has the guts to say, oh, well, only what the church do, they are manipulating the members, the colonialism, they are still having the mentality. It is what goes on within the body of Christ. It's what makes them to believe or to come to that notion. Because, the Bible says that, Matthew chapter 5, believe that Bible says that we are the light of the world and we are the salt of the earth. So whatever we do, whether being in monetary form, whether being in prayer form, whether being in relationship form, whether being whatever we do as Christians, our light might shine for the world to see. But this is the case. Even the pastors are molesting children. Pastors are abusing children in Nigeria, across the globe, Ghana, I mean, name it. And then when they say, oh, it is the devil, and the God commanded me to do that. Now, so when somebody is not born again, somebody who has not received the Christ that we're talking about, somebody who have not, tasted the love of Christ, and then they are outside seeing those things happening, they will always come up with that, you know what, I'm not going to go there because that's what they do there. Or when I go there, they're going to take my money. When I go there, they're going to abuse my child. Now, it is true. It's fact that we, with the way we're going about church these days, like my honorable Priscilla said, it's what is making the people to say what they're saying. So there must be a truth of maybe 95% of element truth in it. But maybe the 5% are the genuine men of God, who are the Christians who are living that Christ-like life. What is the purpose of Christ coming to the earth? For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. So our predominant strength that we have is to love, to show that Christ-like love to the world, the people. But whereby we are not able to exhibit that, where pastors are enriching themselves, they are going on holiday, and then members are I work with people. I work as a health professional, and then you see people coming to work, and the uniform is not iron. Why? Oh, I'm short of light, and there's no light in my house, and then you go to the common room or you go to the staff room, and this conversation goes on within the staff room, and then you see somebody who hasn't accepted the Lord or known Christ will be listening, and then therefore he or she is going away with what has been discussed. So yes, we are our own destroyer. What goes on within the church is what the outsiders are seeing or hearing, and therefore can come to that conclusive evidence to say that, well, if this is what the Christ we are talking about, then I'm not interested to know about that Christ. What I want to know the love of God for me. So yes, it is possible that is the reason why people are saying what they are saying out there.
Okay. Priscilla, before you come in, this is a message from Kofi Ali. Kofi Ali said the preacher was not talking about tithe as you appear to understand on fear and guilt. He said religion, not just the church. He said all religions pray on fear and guilt to control the flock. I will say politics is generally about fear and guilt for power to control the people. Okay, Kofi, thank you for that. We're basing it on church because he's a pastor and he did talk about tithe. And if you look at some of his previous teachings, he's been an advocate for people to, pay their tithe and, prosperity messages from him. And Priscilla, let me hear Priscilla's take on the question, Priscilla, on it more or less falling in line with what people believe to be, the Bible capturing the minds of people is used to project fear in the minds of people to do what, colonial masters wanted them to do.
Yeah, and thank you so much for that contribution, Kofi Annan. Kofi Ali, sorry. When you look at the world, this is something that I found interesting. I learned about this, some years ago, and I thought, wow. The company Boots and the company John Lewis, they've been around for such a long time. John Lewis has celebrated over 100 years, and I think Boots is the same. And what they do, there's a practice that they have. John Lewis, for instance, they started off by sharing their profits with their staff. So up until recently, if you worked for John Lewis, at the end of every year, they will share their profits with you. So you'll get an extra bonus in your pay packet come, I think, March or April or something. So they shared, their profits with their people. They still had some kind of a charity that they set up as well. Boots, on the other hand, set up a charity where they looked after individuals within society, again with a percentage of their profits that they have. Now, our churches, we have these mega churches. I'll give you the example of Nigeria, for instance. They will build schools, universities, and as people have complained, members of these churches can't afford to send their children to these schools. Now, but then their contributions of the rich, the poor, and the poorest in that congregation contributed to, building the schools and the universities. But the same people, a lot of them will struggle to send their children. God is a God of justice. When Jesus came to this earth, if you read through the Bible very carefully, before he attended to anybody telling them you must follow me, he first dealt with their problem. So if you were hungry, he fed you. If you were sick, he healed you. He attended to whatever your issues were first before people started following him. In the church, we don't do that. Sometimes we don't even look at what your issues are. And that is where the world seems to be doing better, and they're not paying tithe, and we're in the church and we're paying tithe, contributing, and it seems so forceful, but we don't seem to be getting anywhere. Because the charity aspect of us, which we should be practicing more of, we are not practicing. So, the world looks at us and they're confused. And sometimes when you listen to businessmen, you hear some of them talk about the giving that they do. There's a charitable arm or something where they'll give money to various things and support causes here and there. And yet they are prospering. So what's the secret? What is it that they are doing? We have to re-examine our church, ourselves within the church, and answer the question. When it comes to our colonial masters and colonial this, I don't like to bring that into the church, because that's trying to tell, we're assuming that God is not God. God only became because of the colonial masters. But yet, again, when you go through the Bible was in Egypt. Is Egypt not in Africa, the beginning of man or civilization or whatever you want to call it? Did we not speak of the Ethiopian Enoch? Thank you. Does the Bible not describe Jesus with woolly hair and browner skin? Jesus is only white in the movies, and I'm so tired of people always focusing on that. White Jesus. It's only in the movie. If you read your Bible, you're not going to see him as white. So when we mention the colonial aspect, I think we just use that as an excuse not to really attend to the real issues of what the good book is saying. So leave the colonial aspect of things out, and let's look more into how we're practicing this Christianity. What is our walk? Is our walk first to attend to humanity before anything else? Or are we just bashing them with the Bible, the word of God? You should be this way, and judging everything and everyone. And yet people are dying in our midst. People are broken. People are a mess, but we can't help them because of our own insecurities, inhibitions. We're too good, or we're too much, or whatever it is that we, how wonderful we have concluded that we are. We can't see where other people need help, no matter their age, regardless of their standard in life or standing in life or whatever it is. Everybody needs some kind of help somewhere. And the church fails in being able to identify that, and will often leave people to just, fall apart because we're just so holy. We don't want to be contaminated sometimes. And I think these are where we should be focusing, because I think that if we were focusing on that, things like tithing, there will be no confusion. There will be no confusion in the understanding if we were also spending time in the Word and knowing what He, Elohim, the King of Kings, the I am that I am, the creator of the heavens and the earth, said about the issues of the day. If we read our word and, we were close to, we would know that, and it wouldn't matter what any man would say to us.
It's interesting because Pastor Ferdinand, Minister Ferdinand, is saying that he stopped paying his tithe, right? And Priscilla, you're saying that you continue to pay your tithe, because if you don't, how will the church function in terms of taking care of bills? And whatnot. So I just wanted to hear, from both sides, because at the end of the day, this is the bone of contention. Should it still be mandatory, or is it just depends on the individual? And if we're claiming that we are following the word of God and we worship the true one God, then surely we must all follow suit, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Let me just come in. Before I move on to you, that I think when my sister was talking, the one thing that came to mind when the coronavirus came, that you see a lot of churches failed their members. Not that there was no money for them to be able to provide even food for them, common sanitizer, common wipe, face mask. Some churches were not providing that. So the question I have is that before coronavirus, people were paying tithe and offering. We're giving, as I said, I give more than any, in a week when I go to church, I give more than £20 for offering. Now, if there are any other thing that need to be given, money need to be contributed, I'm always giving. I give my books out. As any sale I make out of my book, to me, I don't call it tithe. I give up because I know that the church needs the electricity to be paid for, the water, the tea roll, everything like we all have in our home. Yeah, that is very important. But the problem we have, like my sister was saying, is when we fail to love, to show that compassion and understanding, is because we the leaders are failing to see outside the box. The audience, they look at the peripheral vision of themselves. Okay, bring in the storehouse, bring it to the storehouse, and if you don't bring it, God will punish you. You will not be prosperous. You will not be. And I keep asking myself this question. The Bible says that as long as this earth remains, seed time and harvest will not stop. So when you look at Alan Sugar, when you look at Richard Branson, when you look at all these successful guys, all these men that I've researched and I've realized that they don't pay their tithe. They don't even have Godfather. But in this is where we feel that we do everything must be, I am your Godfather. If you don't pay your tithe, I'm gonna close the heaven. I have seen a pastor, one of the church I used to belong to. The pastor, before he visits you in hospital, he will command the secretary to go and bring your tithe card for him to see how many times you have paid your tithe before he would drive his car to come and visit you. And when he was questioned, he said, which money are you expecting me to buy my fuel with? But this is the point that you can walk from where the church is to where the hospital is. So you see, there's a lot of things going on, like my sister was saying, a lot of misunderstanding, there are a lot of things going on within the church that now people are feeling the pain. They are feeling the pressure. Look at the economical system going on now. People are struggling here and there. People are unable to provide common and even nursing, like we healthcare workers, like we're talking about John Lewis and all these things. How many benefits do we get? Even our salary is not enough. But this is the point. Your wife will pay your tithe, you pay your school fee, you pay maybe other essential bills. But when you go home, there's nothing left for you because you have to contribute so much to church. So the question, my only contribution is that if I'm answering you correctly, is that we should not only look at the money aspect coming in, tithe and offering or whatever contribution. Somebody may not be working, but they can. I was born in Deeper Life. I was a member of Deeper Christian Life Ministry as a youth evangelist. I had never stopped paying my tithe in Deeper Life because I got the understanding of why we are paying the tithe.
Okay.
But now, these so-called one-man churches, all they're doing, they're buying private jets. When they see you, when you make the members will be buying, giving them a lot of food. But when they meet the member, they'll say, make sure you come to church. But they'll be driving their Porsche car empty. So who is going to work with that little energy? Come back to church, all the activity, go home. Maybe you have to do night duty and you strain yourself. When you are sick, the pastor will tell you, I need to check your tithe and offering card before I visit you. I think that is an error. And there's a lot of error going on until the church speaks about it. Until we speak, like you're giving it the platform. This is where the truth must be heard. The Bible says that we shall know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. I personally stopped paying tithe because I don't see why the church is using the tithe for. They don't give an account. Many leaders don't give an account to why they're giving the money. If you any church, the government has to give an account as to how much they are spending on health and social care. But can the church give an account? They don't even 3 years, 4 years, they don't give an account as to what they use the money for.
Right.
So this is the reason why I believe that people don't pay their tithe, and personally, I don't pay my tithe.
All right.
Because where I am, they don't give an account even 1 year to tell you, oh, this is the amount of money we received from tithe and offering, and then therefore this is what we use the money for. But all you see the pastor buying, the pastor will change the building for about 5 or 6 times, and then maybe buy a 4-wheeler car, and then driving around, and then telling you, oh, you need to come to church and pay your tithe and offering. I don't think that is wise enough.
Let's hear from Priscilla.
So one of the beauties of Christianity is the choice that God gives us.
Sure.
He's not a forceful God. He allows us to make our own decision. He allows us to decide on what we want to do, how we want to do it, when we want to do it. The only thing I will say regarding that is that we should just remember that every action has a consequence.
Sure.
And you will see throughout the scriptures that he didn't spare including his favorite ones. So this issue of tithing, for me, for the church that I go to, they're not perfect, far from it at all. However, I have to give them kudos for the amount of work that they put in and what they do. Like I said earlier, they belong to that small group of churches that will have something to deal with, a counseling session for you to deal with your stress at some point. They're dealing with marriage people, how you should bring up your kids, business people, how far. Students, we're helping you here. Come. Prayer and fasting is a must, it's a quarterly thing collectively. Deliverance is going on. You see the work that they're putting in, producing materials for, that will teach us various aspects of our living and what have you. So I give them their kudos there. But there are churches that you pay tithe into, like Mr. Ferdinand said, you see zero. There's no help anywhere. They can't account for, what they receive, or they will always tell you that there's no money if you should dare to go to them. I think COVID really exposed a lot about the church and caused a lot of people to question whether or not they want to continue within the church and to continue with the church that they were going to. And I think that going forward now, we're in a very interesting season and we all need to be so mindful. The church failed considerably during COVID. What I had a challenge with was the fact that the church could not tell us about what we were going through and how it related in the scriptures. We couldn't marry it. We couldn't follow it in the scriptures. We couldn't tell what is happening here, what's going on, what is the Lord saying about it, especially here in the United Kingdom. There was this deafening silence. And I appreciate that, of course, our men of God are equally, human beings. And they were just as affected as we were. So I get that. But my goodness, the silence was deafening. And then after a while, there was a lot of praying on social media going on. I thank some of those pastors that were there every day to pray with people. It was great. But that aspect of relating it to what the scriptures were saying was the one that was lacking. And I think it still is. Perhaps there are people out there that their pastors or their church leadership have been able to take them through the season we're in now and what the scripture says about it or what the Lord is saying, about that. So we have the power of choice. It's up to us how we choose to interpret the scripture, how we choose to walk according to it. It's in your hands as an individual because you're going to answer for yourself. The Bible says we should work out our salvation with fear and trembling.
Okay. All right. And we'll end it here, but we'll continue the discussion. Thank you very much for joining us, Minister Ferdinand Senior Lawson, who is a multiple award-winning author and also award-winning lifestyle coach and a motivational speaker. And also Priscilla Workboy, a broadcaster and also political analyst, joining us here. Thank you both for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Jones. Have a fab day.
You too. So there you have it. We'll continue with this particular subject because I received a lot of text messages and I will read them out. We'll also have Stefan Gaislin will also be joining us to talk about this because I was going to move on, but one thing that we've been taught is when the subject or the topic gets the interest, you keep it going. I'll read a few of your thoughts, your comments coming in. And also you can call in 0203-286-0185 or 077-8793-9958. We'll be back right after this.
Ayampo, ewiasi sobi benyawo ene yare nanso pastanti shalom be pie mu o man mu de menti so bia de yare asiri obi da won wa akwa me ho nyina ya dansedie nko a onyame nam ne dom so ayi a chia na ko a ye na nanmo bi biduru a no mo de sa yare wa e ma bi mu di mfinhia wo ha ne aduonu ane wo ha ne akire no ode be pie ye man mu asa be de ode gi ye nkwa dodo no a na o diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, high cholesterol, koko, anasa ni dane, ana obi a wani so ye usisi, arthritis, anasa sasabro, fibroid, skin rashes, bema o yire fra o comfort, e won paso, ana oba wo pa wo. Inti Shalom Herbal, e your last stop. Ono de, wo de anya ye krom, ahama, ene ye nubina, ena sabre o de san yare. Sama mo yare bi din a, na no ntia se oni na duro. Gise wadru pastor Inti Shalom Herbal. Asue, ansa no what de American asi. Enti wo a wutie me. Yare ba no agya tumu se we de wo yare no no. Na Syria sahini Naaman, e yare kwata. Na wo pa anu aduru a. Nanso ebra o ti onyame akoa, odifo Elisa anka, na okwahunu no no. Onyame fa ne so, esa ne yare. Enti yare bia wonam mu. Yare bia etete wo. Yare bia ha wo no. Enne fra Pastor Shalom. I was 074 48 60 62 63 ana 079 30 65 77 50 or 079 84 02 41 64. The landline UK is 0203 65 20 297. So what Germany so bet me a friend was 0049 69 30 08 89 65 and now 0049 17 63 70 43 518. Inti Shalom Herbal Medicine there. Aba abaji yankwa. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yahweh, shalom. Yahweh, shalom.
When you thought you seen it all, but no. This is the height of it. London, wake up as the maestro, Mr. Music Man, the legendary Kojo Entry with Ketche and the Davison Band, UK. Live concert in the UK. This is happening live on the 30th of July, 2022. Time 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Hosted by The Force. DJ on deck, DJ TQ. Location, Gaumont Palace, Dominion Center, the Broadway High Road, Woodgreen. N226DS. Performing live, we'll be having a surprise guest. Anticipate. Come and witness history in the making. Tickets available online at www.kojoentry.eventbrite.co.uk. Remember, this is sponsored by Unity Link Money Transfer. Media partners. For more info, contact 077-288-76027 or 075-2552-48643. Kojo Entry with Ketche and the Davison Band UK live in concert. UK is powered by Davison Band and Desire Enterprise UK. So my guy, you have to there, eh? It's a legendary thing, my lad, me tell ya. Yeah. It's the anthem.
I want to start off by saying to you that I'm still growing, and that the teachings that I've shared in times past on the subject of tithing were not correct. And today I stand in humility to correct some things that I've taught for years and believed for years, but could never understand it clearly because I had not yet been confronted with the gospel of grace, which has made the difference. I won't apologize, because if it wasn't for me going down that route, I would have never ended up where I am right now. But I will say that I have no shame at all at saying to you, throw away every book, every tape, and every video I ever did on the subject of tithing, unless it lines up with this. I've done some corrective teaching in the last 10 years, but not to the degree of what we're getting ready to do now. So why is this important? Because religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. And if it's one subject that the church has used for a long time to keep people in fear and guilt, it is in that subject of tithing. And it has to.
Religion is sustained by two factors: fear and guilt. That is from Creflo Dollar, somebody who is renowned for prosperity messages, prosperity preaching. Myself, I did say that in the past I have listened to him, and I think I probably still will listen to him if I come across his clips on YouTube, because I think he is a fantastic teacher. I like the way that he teaches. But here we are. He's telling us to totally disregard his teachings on tithing. Where do you stand on this? I'd like to hear your take on this particular subject. Would this have any impact on you at all? The way that, when it comes to tithing, would you carry on paying your tithe, or this is it for you? You're going to stop paying tithe? Because this has been the bone of contention. When this clip actually came out, I sent it to a friend of mine. He's also, he's a Christian. And he said, my goodness, this is something that he has battled with for many years, because he felt like that particular scripture, which is always used, it just pushes you, forces you to give. And, he believes in every aspect of the Bible, but this particular part about tithing is what he struggles to comprehend. So then he went on to say, if this is what Creflo Dollar, who is known for the prosperity gospel, then he ought to return every money that he's received through tithing. Let's hear what you have to say. But we'll continue with the discussion, and joining us to talk about this is Stefan Gaislin. Stefan is a social commentator and also somebody that I personally know. Stefan, thank you for coming on the show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me.
Let me get your take on this, your reaction when you saw this clip.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, this is something that it's been going on for years, and yet, I'm a strong believer in things of God, but there's a limit whereby people use the influence, use the teachings, to, for personal benefit, personal gains. I'm not here to judge anyone, any preacher whatsoever. That's not my main. But we need to talk about certain things, that we all know is not correct.
Right.
And for me, Creflo Dollar, I've really never paid attention to his teachings. To be honest with you, he's not saying that he's not of God or whatever, but his teaching never appealed to me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he's someone that I believe that God has been using, to a certain extent, right? But now the problem we have is he's saying, after how many years, over 20 years of teachings, that what he's been preaching, throughout media, throughout his sermons, that is wrong.
Yes.
But that now we need to talk about accountability here. Okay. So this is where we are now. You always have the discussion, where you got someone come out. For me, this is where the truth always reigns. You know, you can run for so many years. A day will come when it will hit you hard. And when it hits you hard, you're like, wow, what was I thinking? You know, the problem with, especially in the church today, is that they've used their position of power. Is that politicians? I mean, corrupt. I'm not saying all pastors are corrupt. Whereby if you try to criticize them, the politicians, in Africa especially, when you criticize a president or a politician, you have the police on your door, on your doorstep.
Yeah.
Or you're going to give. It's simple, but with the past it's different. But when they use the scripture to scare people down. Now, we are all going through into a crisis at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. Remember a couple of years ago, I told you this. A time will come that this guy will spend the time preach about money. They're gonna feel it. One came out recently, Benny Hinn.
Yes, I was going to get onto that because Benny Hinn, again, a well-known pastor, also renowned for preaching about prosperity, came out and said that, you know, he took it too far.
Okay. Now, there's a thing. For me, I don't call anybody just man of God. Today I'm going to drop my British accent. I will speak with African.
Yeah.
So at least because this is a bit
of course,
it hits me so bad because every time you try to criticize one of these guys, they say, "Oh, you should not touch my anointed."
Yes, that shall not touch.
So if you want to go to scripture today, we're going to go to scripture, but we're not here for that. We're just going to talk about what's happening.
Yes.
Now, there's a man called Sadhu Sevaraj. He's an Indian preacher. I don't know if you know about him. He's the one that prophesied about Trump, all that kind of stuff. Years ago, he said he warned most Nigerian pastors that if you don't stop preaching about money, one of you, one by one, will drop down. Bam, bam. And this had happened. But he has not been proven. There's so many pastors that I know that have been talking about money for years. I know they begin to die. But now, what happened to, I believe, in America, they have hires, you know, when it comes to pastors. And I think one of the top three, you got Kenneth Copeland.
Yes.
You have now with the black we have T.D. Jakes. And now there's another one that people don't really know about in America. His name is Rick Joyner. Rick Joyner has spoken. He said the only person in America, as in America, that when he speaks, he has to listen and sit down to listen to his name is Sadhu Sevaraj. Sadhu spoke publicly, and in every watch Nigeria, he said, if you guys don't stop, I don't know if you know about him.
No, I don't.
Exactly.
It's interesting, yeah.
His teaching is mainly based on knowing God for yourself. You will not go into your pockets, double. You won't do that. This is what they've been doing to us for years. Now, when he said that, a few years later, he spoke about in 2018, when the Trump thing came, you know. Yeah. And then you have COVID that hits people. Now, in COVID, we all now feeling the
pinch.
Effect. Like, every to buy bread now is a problem. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So now you're going to ask someone that don't even can get bread. God say I should tell you, come give me your tithe and offerings. But you're not Elijah. Elijah was able to multiply bread. He was able to call down an economy to fall down. But you can never prophesy. And you want to come and tell me to give me my 20% and give you more than that because God tell you, which God be this? Let's not fool ourselves. The church has failed. Big time. You know, in America, you can't talk about money. Now people can never eat, can't buy petrol. Are you going to talk about it? So now if he has decided to repent, no problem. But now my question is, refund. Are you going to refund that money that you took? Because this is a problem. I've said to people that there are two institutions on this earth that could have easily prevented poverty. The church and government. But we know governments, the way they are, that's the way they are. But let's talk about churches today, especially for African churches. Because all that teaching that you see from Creflo Dollar, it went down to most of African pastors that will come to you and tell you, God said, I should tell you today, you should go have your bank accounts, come and put tithe and offerings. People did not really understand there's difference between tithes and offerings.
Yeah, sure.
But now, having a teaching on tithe, that's when these guys are calling crocodiles. They will come and hit on people who know nothing about God. Yes, there is a level when understanding where it works. One thing I can tell you that works for the UK. The UK was, the UK in the 60s were paying 20% to Israel. When the UK have somebody, they will send 20% to Israel. That's what the UK economy, they understood that principle. The Jewish understood that principle. God cannot renounce his word. He said, challenge me, and you will see. So when you go on that principle, you sit on it, it will work, no problem whatsoever. But now, when now you are outside the box of that understanding of the scripture, it does not work. Look at today. Let's talk about Nigeria, for instance.
Yeah, sure.
Most of 80% of church leaders in Nigeria talk about money. Look at Nigeria economy. Couple of years ago, we were talking about when pastor were this is out of such, but I'll just give you a little bit of example.
Right.
You want to look for a husband. When Valentine's Day come, most preacher would call you, would tell you, oh, come and pray for your husband. You will see 80 sisters coming to the room where there's only 20 men. Who's going to be a husband? Now today, that preaching does not work anymore because people have seen that this guy, they be lying to us. Now, Creflo Dollar, do you know how much money the guy asked for personal jets? He wants to pay personal jets. Why can you not use America? Yes, I understand you want to go places, you want to go faster. But here's the problem. When you say you're a prophet of God, you have to work with the supernatural. Jesus, he could have been disappeared to places. Moses, he could have been disappeared, but you cannot. And you want to call him man of God? Now he has to come down to us, the teaching that we'll be receiving. What is it? Who is a man of God? Who is not a man of God? Who is doing the right thing? Who's not doing the right thing?
And of course, and this is why, it begs the question, why, how are they able to manipulate to the point that, a lot of well-learned people, because, let's not kid ourselves, a lot of these people that are supporting these pastors are well-learned people, also fall victim of this.
The thing is that when you go to a church, this is what they will tell you. God said, they shall not touch my eye, anointed. Okay, now this is where it hits me. In my life, I was only able to have few people that I trust with the teaching. Not saying the others are not of God. No, I'm not saying. But there are only few men of God today that will tell you the truth. What you don't want to hear. That's the education I had. Never go to someone that will please your ears, but go to someone that will discipline you to make you a better person in Christ. Me, I'm not a perfect Christian. That's why today some teaching cannot get into my mind. When you start talking about one day I want you in church, the guy said, oh, God said, my brother, God wants to bless you. I say, amen. He start talking. He said, can we talk after the meeting? I said, okay. Very known minister here in London. Yeah. He said, oh, the Lord has asked me to bless you, this. I said, he has not said anything to me now. Because I can also hear him. I have no conviction of whatever you are saying. The guy looked at me. We spent 25 minutes on scripture based on giving. The guy looked at me like I was a witch, I was a madman. And I walked away. So that you want to tell me that when they say you shall not touch man, now this is number one. They say, when you don't touch man, you are anointed. If you don't want the wrath of God to come on your head, don't criticize men of God. But here's the problem. Romans 5 said, it is our responsibility to criticize one and another. Yes. That scripture, people do not want to quote it. So where is the accountability now? For 20 years, this man has been taking money. We're talking about over $10 million. Now, has he done anything for the community in America, black communities? You have to think about that. The church is supposed to be a place of financial resources or education resources. If you look over the ministry, you look the book of Acts and Apostles and Romans, you will see the church was an organization. They are meeting the needs of the people of the community. But today, a pastor wants to take. What he will do with the money? Put his child to private school, buy himself a big Mercedes. And then you will come to church. You don't have transport. Look at Nigeria, for instance. Let's go to Kappa Nigeria. It's not. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere. So this guy, I'm telling you, they are. May God, if I'm saying it wrong, but I think this was evil.
Is it the Christian faith as a whole, or is it just down to sets of churches? So, for instance, the Pentecostal church, the Pentecostal movement, as opposed to Catholics and Anglican and the Methodists. That the problem is.
The problem is when the biggest awakening of the Pentecostal church came. It was very charismatic.
Charismatic, yeah.
When you go and speak well, you speak good English. Look at T.D. Jakes, for instance, today. T.D. Jakes, his preaching is not based on motivational speaking. Not saying that God doesn't use it. God uses it. But now the man understood if you speak good English, Oxford good English, he has an American accent. When you speak well, you're like, wow, you think the guy is from heaven. You approach it, and it makes sense to so many teachings. But when you come down, the teaching, is it affecting your soul to become better in Christ or to become better in society? These are two categorical. God, yes, is interested in the society, but he wants to be established in the spiritual. Now, let me give one example. The Jehovah's Witness. One of the most successful evangelical, they're not evangelical, but it's the most successful movement in the world of church history. They don't make noise. They have a lot of money, but they don't make noise. When they go to the temple, they are organized, they wear dress, they wear product. Yes, every church has his weakness.
Of course.
That's why we say when we all come together in unity, in the perfection of Christ, that means we grow into perfection. We are not perfect yet. That's what the problem is. Now you have the Catholic in number one. They don't really talk about money, but they're organized. They have money from the politicians. They also got money from the decade history that they have throughout the years. So now you got Baptist church different. You got the Mormon church was different.
Yeah.
But now let's come back to the evangelical, whereby you hear someone that will come to you and will tell you, bring your tithes. I've been to one church. The pastor had a basket with him here in London, Ghanaian church. Yes, he had a basket. So we put tight. And one thing most pastors now do, when they have little ministry, the first thing they ask me for, God give me a big place. That's when thing goes wrong. They want a big place. When you want a big place, you have to think about how you're going to manage it financially. And then you see the message that they bring out will change. I've seen it plenty of times.
I want to know how much do you think this will impact the church? Because look, we're all in there's a global crisis, economic crisis. Is affecting people. We're all starting to feel the pinch. And when you do go to church, you want to hear something that will give you that feeling that there's a better days ahead. And now, because, it's teaching, isn't it? Tithe, if you give money, then obviously you'll be blessed, and so on and so forth. And now, if Creflo Dollar is saying that what he was teaching is wrong, and we should just regard everything he's taught on tithing, then, where are we going? Are we now going to stop hearing prosperity messages?
Exactly. That's what we see. Let's see how close you are to the verity of the teaching of God.
Yeah.
Now, you spend 20 years governing our head, governing our mind, our spirit, money, give. Yes, we understand that you repented. But I think I'm not here to be God. But we need to talk about accountability.
Sure.
What are you going to do? What have you done with the money that you receive? Are you going now to say, okay, I want to do donation to some places, to some churches? What are you going to do with it? But this is what the problem comes now. We are too lenient to put some of these guys
on a pedestal.
So, and we say, okay, look, mate, you've done something wrong here. You've taken my money. Now, as my life change, ask these people, they will tell you, as the life change, they will say, no, today you can't even put bread onto the table. But he and his family will still travel around with private jets. Yeah, because he has a private jet. For me, if I'm not saying he hasn't repented, but if you want to have something that people will take your word seriously, let's see, Go and sell the private jet that you had. Go and sell the houses that you had, and try to build a community with it. So I don't know what it does in America. I do know that TDJX, from what I've been told, it does something in America. But here in London, most churches don't. It's difficult to find a church that will really be invested in community. We're not talking about holding meetings in your town, but actually going out there, trying to resolve crime, or that, because the church is a resource, is the bedrock of the community. But when now that bedrock is done, what happens? When you come on Sunday and tell me I should put, yes, I have to, but God said you should give me 10%. I have to give God 10%. Now the offering is different. It's up to me now. Whatever I give, I don't give.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The 10%, you have to, you don't have to.
So hold on. You're not against tithing.
I'm not against tithing,
Right.
but I'm against the fact that it's become a mandatory teaching. When you impose it onto people and using scripture for financial gain.
But then, how do you then separate the fact that you separate tithing not being mandatory onto people?
Here's the thing: when God said to the Israelites, "Bring me your 10%," God said 10%. Okay. Now, if you go to the book of Malachi, God said, "Challenge me." Malachi was saying it was a prophetic teaching into it that happened. Now, many so-called men of God. Now we use the analogy that happened between Elijah and the widow that lost her son.
Yeah.
Okay, but Elijah has proven himself. Elijah proved that he's a man of God. Elijah could say the sky to shut for 3 days. Elijah could raise a bird from the dead. You can't raise a bird from the dead. You cannot do any of those things. There's no miracle. You cannot heal the sick. Show me a church here in London whereby miracles are happening. Show me. Most of these guys, they have not performed any inch of miracle that these old prophets have done. None. And now you want to come and tell me, I'm men of who? Which you're a man of who? You're a boy. But what they have done is they perfected themselves, the teaching in the Bible. But when they now come to spiritual prophecy stuff, they cannot prophesy. Show me today a man of God in anywhere in this world, I know few, that were able to shut down a financial institute in this country, in this world. Show me. You cannot. Let's talk about even Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. Do we have anyone?
Let's try to. No, I understand what you're saying, but the fact that he's saying that religion has been used to project fear and guilt. So in that sense, okay, I'm just trying to think here, because I mean the Bible is there to chastise you, right? And if that doesn't put fear in you, then of course you go contrary to what the teaching is saying.
You just answered your own question. Now look, you should fear God. When you fear God, you fear His representation. But when you talk about representation, in a sense where someone that is acting on God's behalf according to His purposes, not according to his own profits.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here is the thing. You see me? If I have £1,000 coming to me, I'm going to give £100 to God, isn't it? And my offering is up to me. I can give £5, £50, whatever. That's up to me. Now, if I want a challenge, I have an issue. I say, Lord, this is me. I'm challenging you. Okay, that's the challenge that I'm talking about. That's when that's when most of these pastors were forcing you. And they were using good teaching, and they said, God said, if you don't bring offering to me, if you don't give 10%, the demons will come and devour your crops. Or that's what they're using. That's why I came back to tell you one thing about Elijah. Elijah was a proven man of God. When he spoke, things happen. You talk, things will happen. And you want me to come to give my money. But now even that money that comes to the bank of the church, that money, yes, the pastor might have a percentage to feed himself.
Sure.
That is between you and God. Now that depends if God told him. You have to see if God told him which percentage. Has he heard God? Yes. You see, that depends if God really told him. He said God will tell you 10 to 20%. Okay, imagine a church. So in London alone, minimum every Sunday service, a church got a church that has 500 congregation could gather at least over £10,000 minimum every Sunday.
But Stefan, let me interject here. So, if the church do not encourage, right, its members to contribute, then how do you pay for the edifice of the church? How do you pay for, the bills and everything? You can't just rely on the pastor to be able to pay for all of these things.
Okay, so that's when now this is where reality kicks in. You only can eat what you can afford. You can only afford a certain. So if you want to have big eyes, when you want to go to have a big building, okay, you have to put the least deposit, or I don't know how much you pay a month.
Yeah.
So these are the things you must have a financial and accountant that would say, okay, pastor. All right, but that's not your main priority. Your main priority is the people. Any pastor that I know pastors today that are really seated. They know the first priority in these things is first of all the people. Now, if the growth is bigger than the place where we are, then now we have to look for different places according to our pockets. Yes, it becomes a company. Yeah, you also want to have to think about it. Sometimes pastors receive donations.
Yeah,
they receive private donation. You might have one of your member that is a millionaire that will say, Pastor, I want to give you 50,000 today. No problem. That's pastor's money. You can get 50,000 money. No issue whatsoever. Now, that is up to him to do with whatever he wants with that money. Now he needs to think of who first, of the code that go in the church. What is happening in the church? What is happening in the community?
Okay, I'm just trying. Let me play devil's advocate here. So, for instance, okay, now we know Creflo Dollar has come out to say that his teachings were wrong. However, if that method that he was using at the time was what was able to give him the funds to be able to spread the gospel, as it were, to go and start churches in other places, right? And he's been successful, then, at the end of the day, it's still God's work, isn't it?
So what is success in God's eyes?
Being able to spread the word, building churches.
Yeah, but then what is the message what is your message? That's where the problem is. Your message is not about tithes. His message was about money. It was a businessman. That's the problem. That's when now the thing comes in. Okay, we know you're successful. You're successful based according to what? God does not judge your success based according to how many churches you planted. It bases your success according to how many souls you have brought to Him, that have grown into His likeness. That's how God judges a man of God. It's not you have this cathedral, this cathedral. No, that's what. Now he himself, he realized because people don't give money anymore. It's critical in this recession. People do not give money anymore. The guy is feeling it. Now he's trying to find a novel tune. Look at Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn now, I used to listen to Benny. Look at Benny Hinn. It's boring. Benny we're not preaching what look at his teaching now. It's bored to the core. TJX is being smart because he is having a celebrity next to him. The guy speaks good English. He will come and tell you motivational speakers. He has so many motivational speakers around him. And the guy now using the Bible to do that work. But God is still able to move in that movement. But a time will come, God ask you, okay, but let's say my purpose.
He did apologize. Well, he did say that he won't apologize for it because it was through that ignorance that led him to where he's at now. This is Creflo Dollar, right?
He said himself, he through that ignorance. So now you know it was ignorance.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the ignorance now?
Now, I'm asking, should the church forgive him? Because
that is up to them now. They've been there for 20 years. You feel they're comfortable with it. But the problem is, what kind of church is going to preach now? We don't know. That's what I'm saying. If you look properly, we don't talk about Creflo Dollar anymore. We don't talk about you anymore. That means you're out of the game. That's what's happening. That is what is happening because his teaching is no longer relevant. The relevance of your message is no longer there. So which means now people are no longer listening to you. They're not stupid.
We're in time of hardship and that prosperity message is not penetrating.
It's not penetrating anymore. It's not because people's heart, people's soul, COVID has killed. Okay, not just COVID, a lot of stuff has happened. The lockdown itself has had an effect in, I would say, a negative and a positive impact on so many lives today. Do you understand what I mean? When you stay home, you can't do nothing. You can't go out for 6 months, and you find out your cousin passed away. You can't do nothing about it. Pastor will say, pray, 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 pray. Okay. Now, during the COVID, some pastors were still forcing people, come and give. People say, I can't come and give. I can't walk. I can't eat. How do you expect me to come and give? Absolute nonsense. Kenneth Copeland was doing it. He's not, I think he's almost a billionaire. He's a network. I don't know how Kenneth Copeland was able to do his stuff. Those guys, they don't perform miracles and they have money. How? This word I don't understand. A man that cannot perform miracles. I've not heard any of this guy going to any hospital say today you must. No. Moses, Elijah, Elisha, those guys were able to perform miracles. You cannot perform even a quarter of those guys, and you have money.
I would argue that he's a teacher.
You're a teacher. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you teaching what?
All right. Let's take a caller. Hello. Good morning. Hi, Kofi. What would you like to say?
I wouldn't have called, but I'm doing so because it looks like it's all about the tech.
Yes, Kofi.
Good. And I want us to understand that the video you played, that I said earlier, a man is generalizing if you listen to the voice. Not saying he's guilty. What he's saying is that behind all religion is the idea of fear and guilt. And behind that is why people are vulnerable for whatever. When you are going to church, you have problem. Everyone has problem. Everyone is problem. You just have to understand that. And you know how to pray. Those who are now behind God, asking yourself, is it radio telling us what he or what God thinks? And you hear talking as if God is. On the other hand, the person is talking as if, which one do we believe? What's the problem here? Communities where everyone their church. When they set up their church, there is no. Everyone pick the Bible that way. Let the flocks to come in. Are we the schools we say that we are not allowed to do that? We are aware that loan to build that.
Kofi, we're really having trouble hearing what you're trying to say. I wish you would have called earlier, Kofi, because time is fast. Yeah. I can't. We're really struggling to hear you, Kofi. But our time has run out, unfortunately, Mr. Ali. I wish you would have called earlier. Guys, we've come to the end of the show. I'd like to say a big thank you to Stefan for coming in today. I know Stefan is very passionate on this subject. I decided to carry on because there were a lot of text messages coming in. We're done for another day, guys. We'll be back here, all being well, next week. Do join us. We have a lot to talk about, bringing you stories from across the continent of Africa. Also, issues affecting us here. My name is Jones. This is the GN Morning Breakfast Show. We're done for another day. All being well, I'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm so alive. Let's carry on because everyone was so alive.
Yeah.
See, what was this guy? What was he saying?
I couldn't really make out what Kofi was saying, but I think he was trying to get to the point that, because he sent in a text earlier saying that, religion is used to control the people.
Of course.
And then he was saying